good day, everybody. Welcome back live from Jerusalem with Rabbi Chaim Goldberg and his Genesis class. To me, this is just the highlight of the week. I enjoy hearing the profound truth of Torah coming out of the nation of Israel from learned rabbis, especially those out of the Noahide World Center. It's always a joy to be with Rabbi Chaim Goldberg and everybody that joins us in the Zoom room, on YouTube, on Facebook, all sorts of media. We encourage you out there to share these messages. Look through them thoroughly. You can go back. We've got hundreds and hundreds of them online for you to check out. Get the truth, but get it from a learned rabbi. And so let's just tune right in and see how Rabbi Goldberg's doing with the class all around the globe. Rabbi Goldberg, it's your class, sir. You've got the stage.
Good evening from Israel. Good evening for everybody in the world. And hope you're all feeling well, feeling okay. We had today something very exciting. Michaela was with us also for that. Michaela, I can say from Italy. We had the pledge. People did the pledge.
Wow. Mazel tov.
But yes, exactly. But this time we had four languages inside the room, and something like 10 places around the world. And it was really amazing. Everything we were supposed to translate to Russian, to Italy, to English, everything else. And it was really amazing. And I think that this is the beginning of doing peace in this world without any fight. It's really amazing, this situation. Okay, let's start. Let's go inside. Let's dive to the Genesis. And we came now, you know, that we're trying not to rest, we're trying to use the time. So let me share the screen and let's go inside. Now, I'm going to do something a bit different than usual. And I'm going to ask you, Dan, to read in a moment. I'm going to ask you to read something here. And the main thing that I'm going to say or to ask from everybody, I want you to try to catch exactly what was the sin in the paragraph that we're going to read now. We're going to read the paragraph of only nine verses of the Babylon spread over. And I'm asking you to try to catch exactly what was the sin of those people. Okay? So this is those are 9 verses. Read them, you know, as usual. Read them aloud. And
all right, Rabbi, first 9 verse.
Sorry?
Now the entire earth was of one language and uniform words. And it came to pass when they traveled from the east that they found a valley in the land of Shinar and settled there. And they said to one another, "Come, let us make bricks and fire them thoroughly." So the bricks were to them for stones, and the clay was to them for mortar. And they said, "Come, let us build ourselves a city and a tower with its top in the heavens, and let us make ourselves a name, lest we be scattered upon the face of the entire earth." And the Lord descended to see the city and the tower that the sons of man had built. And the Lord said, "Lo, they are one people, and they have one language. And this is what they have commenced to do. Now will it not be withheld from them all that they have planned to do? Come, let us descend and confuse their languages, so that one will not understand the language of his companion." And the Lord scattered them from there upon the face of the entire earth, and they ceased building the city. Therefore he named it Babel, for there the Lord confused the language of the entire earth. And from there the Lord scattered them upon the face of the entire earth.
That's it. 9 verses. Now I'm opening the classroom, okay? You all know those verses. And my question is very simple. What was the sin of those people? But don't try to tell me all sorts of ideas that you know or that you remember from other places. From the verses, can you find in the verses what exactly was their sin?
I'm raising my hand.
Okay.
Lara, what's your question?
What do you want us to offer? Offer us something, yes.
Not a question. I want
Or
to
your position, sorry.
I want to answer Rabbi's question.
Yes.
So it's my understanding on the 4th verse where they say, "Come, let us build ourselves a city and tower with its top into the heavens, and let us make ourselves a name, lest we be scattered upon the face of the entire earth." So my understanding is when they came out of the ark, Hashem told them to spread out to the earth, populate the earth. And they wanted to say, let's not be scattered, let's not go what Hashem told us, but let's stay here and build ourselves a permanent place instead of traveling, scattering, going around the world.
Lara, woo! First of all, very, very, very nice. Everybody can clap their hands. It's not being said very nice. First of all, thank you very much. It's very nice. It's not said. It's not being said for Noach to be spread over. It was said already to Adam. Okay, Adam indeed. It was said to them that I'm showing here in chapter number 1. Okay, it says here, and God said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth." You see, fill the earth. And you're saying in the right way. Maybe what was the problem that they said, we don't want to fill the earth, we want to be in one place. Very nice idea. Someone else have other ideas? Thank you very much, Bob.
I'd like to add a little to that. I believe it was that, but I believe it was the arrogance of man to believe that they could thwart the word of the Creator and go against him. It's the same concept. It's just that the arrogance is what Hashem hates.
So you're moving one step ahead, and you're saying that we can learn from that not to be arrogant against God or against anything else. So you're going more to the.
Yes.
I would say, fine, excellent. So you're adding to this another point, a very important point. Someone else have another idea? Not everybody together. It's okay. There is no wrong answer. Maximum, That's it. No one wants to try. So I will go inside. Let's continue. Let's go inside a bit. Let's start to dive inside to what's happening here. First of all, we must admit, and now we'll go to the problem of what Lara told us. Lara told us something very nice, very exact, but the problem is that they didn't do any real sin. Now, God spread them around the world because this was his plan. And he was annoyed, I will say it like that they decided to stick together. But it's not that they now did the sin. It's more looking for the future. If they will continue to stay in their place, it will be against what God said to them to do. This is one explanation. We need to have here, in this paragraph, we need to have a bit the explanation of the oral Bible that we have, because basically nothing here is written down. It's not clear enough in the verses what exactly was their sin. We can't really say, to nail it. What Lara said, it's good. I'm not saying it's not good, it's good. Again, the main problem is that it's not something that they did now. It was their intention to stay in the same place. But, maybe they were not big enough or something like that. But we need to go inside a bit to the oral explanation of what's happening. And for that, I want to go a bit more inside and to start to see from the verses themselves, and we need to compare them to the verses in other chapters of Genesis. So we will jump. With your permission, I'm going to close all of you a bit down. Now I don't see anything, so Dan, if someone wants to speak or something like that, just tell me.
Very good, sir. Yeah, I've got everything.
Okay. First of all, we're starting, very interesting. Now the entire earth was one language and uniform words. When we're saying one language, what we're saying basically that there was some sort of unity in all of the families from one side, and on the other side they had also uniform words. It's few things, not one thing. So we have unity in one side, but each one also is holding their own identity. There's something here with togetherness, with a spread over from one side, and from the other side is also unity of the things. But I want to go inside a bit more. And it came to pass when they traveled from the east. In the Hebrew it says, Benosam Mikedem. Okay? What is Kedem? So you can say that Kedem is east. I want to show for a moment that when God is kicking out Adam and Eve from the Garden of Eden.
Right, you shared this.
Says that, let's see if it's here, yes. Vaygaresh et Adam, and he drove the man out, and he stationed him from the east of Eden, of the garden. Okay? The same word, east. Vayashken mikeden, you see the same word? So we see that in their mind, I will say, it's like going away from the Eden part, okay, going away from God. Here we're saying in verse number 24 that God is throwing them out from Eden. He wants that they will be far from him. Here we see that the people here are trying to do the same thing, trying to travel from the east, trying to travel from God. This is what it's hinting here. Okay, point number one. Let's continue on. In the English it says they found a valley. Bik'ah is a valley. Okay, in the land of Shinar. What is Shinar? Remember that we all the time is saying that it is very important to understand that there is also, I will say the wording. Okay, the name have also a meaning here. So I need to explain a bit the Shinar. Shinar in Hebrew is that I want to take it off of me. I want to take it out of me. Shinar Zemilashon, it's from the word lena'er. When I'm taking the rug and I'm taking all the dust out of the rug. So this is the word Shinar. So we see here that they're trying to go or to take off all the connection with God. They went out from the east and tried to go out, to take out all the connection with God. Now I have a question. If they want to build up a tower, okay, so I think the most appropriate place is to go to the mountain, right? Not only to go to the mountain, because two reasons. Reason number one, because the mountain is very high, so I can build up something, I can start with much higher place. But the second thing is that when you're going to the mountain, you have rocks. And the rocks is something that you can building with, right? But what they did, they went to a valley. Can you explain this to me?
It was a land, a plain, an open area.
An open area, in the Hebrew, the valley is a place where it's very, low place. What is the logic that they have in their mind? If they want to build up something very high to heaven, why are they going to a low place? Why not to climb to the mountain? They're not far from the Himalaya mountains, it's very high there. Why to go to a low place and to try to build up something very high, unless we're saying that they're trying to do something against God. You, God, know how to build up mountains. We will build also something very nice. Now we're starting to hear that there is something here hidden inside this situation, where they're trying to do some sort of a rebellion against God. It's also coming from the verse number 3. Please read verse number 3 again.
And they said to one another, Come, let us make bricks and fire them thoroughly. So the bricks were to them for stones, and the clay was to them for mortar.
We're looking something that will replace the stone. What is exactly the stone? The stone is something that God gave us. Brick is something that us as human building, organizing.
Made, yeah.
We're making it. We're doing it. Okay, the brick. And they're trying to say to God, we don't want any connection with the things that you gave us here. We want to do it by ourselves. We have some sort of a rebellion against you. We don't want any connection with you. We prefer to be by our own. We don't know you. We don't want to be connected with you. Nothing at all. We say this, in Deuteronomy. It says there's a verse that it might be that you will say that you did all the strength and everything else in this world. Don't forget that God is giving you the strength. They're saying we are going to be and to do things for ourselves. Okay? Don't bother us too much, God. We don't want you in our life. I said it once, and we're going to see this in a moment, also in Rashi, that the king that was building up everything here. Now I'm speaking from the oral Bible, okay, from the oral tradition that we have. The king was Nimrod. And Nimrod, they decided to put him as a king, and he was with a lot of rebellion. He was very against what God did in this world. And he said that the world is not so good. And you can see it because after a few 1,600 years, God brought the flood. So you see that the world is not good. Therefore, what we need to do something. God is the one who brought the world to this bad situation. Therefore, we need to do something that people will forget God. And instead of worshiping God, I will going to be the king, Nimrod, and we're going to build up something that will never end. So people will will born in the middle of the building of the tower and will die when we didn't finish to build the tower. And everybody will be concentrating only to build up the tower. That's it. And people will forget God because they will be only busy with building up this big tower. The Midrash is much harder than what I'm saying here. But the Midrash is saying that they got to a very high level, okay, very, very high level with this tower. And they had a very interesting way how to bring the bricks up to the tower. And it was, one-way ticket. Someone was going up with a brick and he was going down in the other side. Therefore, they didn't, collapse one with each other. But when a brick fell down from very high, they were sitting down and saying, they were crying, when will come another brick so we can continue on to build up this tower? But when men fell down and was killed, they didn't care. They managed to have the brick. And the understanding of that is that they put their mission before men. They lost the unique of each man and man. I'm going to explain this a bit more, and it's reminding us a bit of Cain. Well, in a moment, I'm going to show how much it's reminding us like Cain. Before that, it's very important to see that they had in the technology, they came to a very high level. They managed to build up something very, very big, very unique, very amazing, very astonishing. I don't know how to say this. It was very good. But again, they didn't manage to be in the level of the morality that they were supposed to be. Let's see now let's see a bit of Rashi. Okay, Rashi, let's see a bit of Rashi with the things. First of all, one language. So please, one language is the holy tongue. Holy tongue, the meaning of this is that they had one language that everybody spoke, and they also had all sorts of other things in their minds. So please read in uniform words, please.
In uniform words. They came with one scheme and said, he had no right to select for himself the upper regions. Let us ascend to the sky and wage war with him. Another explanation, they spoke against the sole one of the world. Another explanation, they said once every 1656 years, the sky totters as it did in the time of the flood. Come and let us make supports for it.
So we speak here, or we say here that there are three main reasons or ambitions that brought them to build up this tower. Okay, again, we're not speaking from things that are written down, but more from the oral understanding that we got along history. The first one is very simple. They said, we want to go up to heaven and to do a fight with him. Okay, we want to do a fight. This is what's written down, okay, in the Hebrew. We're going to do a fight. We're going to do a war against him, wage war with God. This is the first explanation. The second explanation, and it's reminding us, that like in the flood, that a lot of them said, we don't care for the flood. We will manage to fight against God with this thing. The second thing is, or the second explanation that we're speaking about is that they were against God also in a very, they're saying they're against God here in this world or against God on heaven. The third explanation is very unique also. And it says, I don't think that they thought in a very childhood way that really the sky is falling down. The meaning of the sky is that in the sky, okay, I will say it like that. In the heaven, you have all the values of life. Now, we are being judged, the people in this world are being judged. Are we managing to live in a moral way or not? And what they said that every time and time, the flood came after 1600 years and 56 years. So every time and time, God is looking at the values that we have at heaven. And it says, judging men, is man in the earth is behaving in the right way or not? And if he is not behaving in the right way, so I'm demolishing him. I will bring the flood. So God said already that he's not going to bring the flood. Okay, fine. But another few years, he is going to judge us. What is the way that we are going to behave much better than in the flood generation? In the flood generation, as we all remember, they were also doing bad things one to each other. Okay, I will show you this in the verse. Just a moment. In the flood generation, they did also bad things one to each other. So we want to behave in a different way. We want to behave in a proper way. Okay. I'm sorry. 7:6. We want to behave in a proper way. The internet is not working. Yay! You see here, please read verse number 11.
11. Now the earth was corrupt before God, and the earth became full of robbery.
What is full of robbery? They were one against each other. So they said here, and this is what's happening here. They said we need to have something that will hold us together, not one against each other. And this is what Nimrod said. We prefer to be together and to use this togetherness against God. Now Nimrod was a clever man. He knew that he is going to lose his world to come. But he said he was a very idealist person. He said, I prefer to lose my world to come, but to bring peace to the people here. So God won't have anything to say against our togetherness. It's very interesting to see that when we read those verses, we saw that we don't know exactly what they did. We don't know exactly what they did. God is hiding from us. And the main thing that he is saying, that this is what we read before, that when God is descended to see the city and the tower that the people did, okay, he said that he won't be able now. Will it not be withheld from them all they want to have a plan to do? Okay, they will manage to do everything because they are together, and this is why God is spreading them off. So we say that he managed to do something there, Nimrod, even though it was a rebellion against God, as we said here in the beginning. It is a rebellion against God, but we're trying to behave in a different way, so we will be not bad as they were in the flood generation. Now, I want to show also, it's very important to see the connection between here and the, I will say, the situation that we had with Cain, okay? And I want to remind us all, we explained in Cain something very important, and we see the same thing here. The question is, what is the main mission and who is more important? The more important is the mission or man. We said more than once that one of the uniqueness that we have as human beings is the possibility of the free will and that we have spark of God inside us, okay? God created us in the image of God. So we are the most unique thing in this world, and we are some sort of messengers for all of the parts of the world in front of God. Now, what Cain did, and also in this generation, in a moment I will show also all the words that are very similar to show us, to hint us that this is what's happening, that he took his son, and he, instead of describing him as a human being with his own soul, he put him inside as something that as described as a functional inside this the city. Okay, what are you doing? I'm a fireman. What are you doing? I'm a policeman. What are you doing? I'm a teacher. But I'm losing my uniqueness. Who are you? I'm a teacher. No. Who are you? My name is Chaim. I'm something else. I'm also teaching. Okay. Who are you? I'm a policeman. No. What is your name? Who are you? So this is what we saw with Cain, and this is what we're going to see now here. And it's the same. This is what happened, where they to build up this tower was more important than any person who was dying there, and the process of building up this thing. So I want to show a few things. Let's go for a moment to Genesis number 4. It is. I don't know, I said to you, with my internet is a bit slow tonight. It's good, you didn't get disconnected yet. Okay. So let's start step by step. First of all, there's a very important wording, okay, inside the Bible, that always when this word is coming, we know that it's speaking about something bad that is going to happen, okay? And here it starts here. This word Vayehi, remember this word always when this word is coming, Vayehi, it says that the next coming paragraph is something that is not so good. And when we're going to Cain, okay, we see the same thing where it says in chapter 4, verses 17, what is written down here. So look.
And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bore Enoch.
And he was Vayehi. You see this word? Similarity? Same thing. Same word here, same word there. Let's continue on. To where exactly Cain is going? Please read verse number 16.
And Cain went forth from before the Lord, and he dwelt in the land of the wanderers to the east of Eden.
Oh, the word is east. Okay. Kidmat Eden, the same word that we saw a moment ago, that they're going also where to? You see, the same word. We have a lot of similarity to what's happening with him. Let's continue on, okay? He is building something very interesting. Vayi boneh ir. What did he build? What did he build up? And he was building a city. Remember that? Let's see what's happening here. They said one to another, and what's that? Let's build up a city. Same thing like with Cain, a city. You see? You see the same thing? Now, more than that, we see that he called the city after the name of his son Enoch. So we ask ourselves, what exactly is the meaning of this? And we explain, after Enoch, we have going out to Irad. Irad is city, Ir, okay, the same word. Ir, come on. Ir, I'm sorry. Ir, and this is the word Ir. You see the same Ir? It's going downwards, where suddenly, instead of the purpose of every human, we are demolishing them inside to the technology and the part of a system, okay? And the same thing is happening here. The same thing exactly is happening here, that the moving from each person and person in his uniqueness, and the demolishing every uniqueness because the purpose or the thing that they're trying to build up is more important than every person there. And this is I'm not bringing it here, but this is one of our sages where he's explaining that when they're asking this thing, and let us make ourselves a name, in Hebrew the name is Na'aseh lanu Shem. They are against God. Okay, this is hinting for God. And they are demolishing each person, just like in Cain they did, because they wanted very much to have a good, or to try to find, to solve the problem of all of the people around and how to live together. But they did it in a wrong way. I think that this is enough for tonight, what I said till here. I will say another one important thing with this thing. It's something that, you know what, maybe I need to share the screen again, and then I will speak about everything. If we're going, if we will look good, closely, okay, in chapter 10, sorry, we said already 3 times in chapter 10, we said that, we said already 3 times in chapter 10, that I will show you here, just a moment. You see, please read verse number 20.
20. These are the sons of Ham according to their families and their tongues in their lands, in their nations.
So they're already spread out, okay? And we saw this again, and we saw this again. You can read also verse number 32.
32. These are the families of the sons of Noah according to their generations in their nations, and from these the nations were separated on the earth after the flood.
And it's also written down in verse number 31, and you can find it another time in another verse there in this chapter. What I'm trying to say is that basically we already know that each one and one of us has some sort of uniqueness. Each family, each nation have some sort of uniqueness in front of God and in front of themselves. What we see in the beginning here in chapter 11 is that this uniqueness, okay, I want to show it to you for a moment. Okay, this uniqueness, it's written down in verse number 3, and they said one to another, okay? They said to one another. Please read Rashi here for one. What is one to another?
One nation to another nation, Mizram to Cush, and Cush to Put, and Put to Canaan.
Mizraim is Mitzrayim, okay? The Egyptians to Cush, and Cush to Put, and Put to Canaan. All of those are the sons of Ham. But what we see here, that nation can speak with another nation.
Mm-hmm.
Here we see something very hinted here is something very important. The beginning of this is that nations have the possibilities to speak with other nations. Now, the end of this story is that all of the nations are getting spread over. We're going to go another, I will say, a profound step next week about this story.
Beautiful.
But the beginning is that nation can speak to a nation, and then they spread over all over the world. But at the end of days, we will manage to go back to a situation where a nation is managing to speak with another nation, and we all feeling always that we are in the diaspora. Okay, all of us are feeling today that we are a bit in the diaspora. It's not that the Hebrew nation went out to the diaspora. All of the nations are sitting down in some sort of a diaspora. The truth is, if you will think about this, that each one and one of us, when we are inside the womb of our mother, we are feeling very, that something is holding us, giving us food, everything is fine. When we're going out, we're feeling a bit the loneliness in some sort of a diaspora outside of where we are supposed to be. And what I want to say that this is a beginning of a very long story, okay, of a few thousand years, where all of the nations are getting, around all over the world, because each one of us have some sort of uniqueness. And in the beginning, what they try to do in this part is to demolish all the uniqueness of each one and one of us, each one and one of the nations. Therefore, God decided to spread them over, to spread them outside. So each nation will have their own uniqueness. The problem managed to go one step ahead, that also they started the fights. That if we will see here, in the beginning, they didn't have the fights. They were together. So I explained to you a lot of things. Now I will answer questions, and then we'll go to the Brit Shalom book. Okay. Yes, I took a bit of time from Lee.
Rabbi, can I make a statement?
Yeah.
In my research, in my personal studies, while I was trying to get to the bottom of the real tangible events that you're discussing, I love how you mentioned in that verse 3 about one nation to another, just like Rashi stated. And what I did is I tracked the origin of writing, linguistics. Just go to like ancientscripts.com, look at the dawn of writing. And what you'll find at that time is the dawn of cuneiform and what's called logophonetic writing. You had cuneiform and Sumerian or Egyptian hieroglyphic, but they're all logophonetic. And that's exactly what Rashi is saying. Between those nations, there is dialogue, yet they still had one tongue, one language, as we said, and they came together. And this evidence is too real in the archaeological, tangible record. I took it after the flood, and I started based on the dawn of languages, and I started to see an outward pattern, and the pattern venturing out after the flood, and it follows exactly as the story says. Amazing.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I think that it's also true, but I'm trying. You're more than right about the science side. And again, for me, it's very important also to emphasize all the time when we're reading the Bible to understand also the moral side of the things, because the Bible is trying to teach us how to behave morally. Right. And we see here, first of all, that the beginning, nations are speaking with nations. So we know that at the end of the days, they will manage also to speak one with each other. Yeah. We also are starting to understand that when you turning things upside down, and instead of dealing with the uniqueness of every person and every nation, you are holding the most important thing is the technology, and you demolishing people. This is something that God is against it. He was against it in the Cain side, and he's also against it here in the Babylon tower side. And because there were togetherness, it's not being said, loud and clear. This is something that we will also speak about this next week. But on the other side, if you're demolishing men and you moving, that the technology, instead of the technology to serve men, right, okay, man is
It's a
serving the
breakaway.
technology, we lost it. We lost it, and God doesn't want to accept it. Yes, Travis.
Just an observation and a question. Looking through this and at the destruction here and the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, and you alluded to it through it, and it is taught that the outcry of when man is cruel to man, there is no mercy or charity in his heart for his fellow. That is the sin that brings the full measure. That is the full measure of sin from Yah, and it brings him to correct at that point. Is that maybe part of the lesson? Because there's over and over and over throughout all of the writings that it's when man does not take into consideration his fellow man and takes other things and puts them over. That's the full measure. Is that am I correct or am I mistaken?
No. First of all, you're more than correct, and we explained that also. We said that at this, after we were kicked out from Eden, at Eden, okay, the main measurement was between man and God. He gave them some sort of an obey, something that they were supposed to do, and they didn't do what he asked them to do. Therefore, he took them out of Eden. When we're going out from Eden, the main thing is the relationship between man and his fellow man. Okay, and if the relationship is not good, this is where the judgment is coming. And I want to show you something very unique that is written down. It says, and they said one to another, and it's in Hebrew they said, Ishel Re'ehu. And this is, they have some sort of a brotherhood there. And the brotherhood, this is why God is not telling us loud and clear in the... אני באמצע שיעור, אני כבר חוזר אליכם. חשוב לדבר. And this is where, this is why God is a bit hiding the exact sin that they had. Because on the other side, they still have some sort of a brotherhood inside between them. Now they lost it because, again, as I said before, instead that the technology will serve men with his uniqueness and his being much more important than anything else in this world, they did everything upside down, and men was serving the technology. We hear something that is a bit related also to what we have today. But and this is why also a lot of time when people are asking me about the Shabbat or something else, I'm saying, look, do to yourself a favor, okay, as an Noachite, not only light candles in the beginning of Shabbat, eat the meal with the family and put all the devices aside for 2 hours. Every Shabbat. Why? Don't take that the technology will control you. To have a small time in the week that you are controlling the technology. Don't be servant of the technology. I don't know how much you saw or how much you're managing to see today with the technology that we put everything inside those phones. We have a computer here that every beep that you hear, you suddenly look, well, what's inside, who is calling me, who is speaking with me. Don't be a servant of the technology. So they lost it. But on the other side, you're more than right. This history in this world now is the relationship between man and his fellow man. This is the measurement of what's happening here. Yes. If there is more questions, we're holding Lee here. Lee believe me, I know that Lee tonight prepared himself very, very good. So we need to give him time also to speak. Yes. Right, Lee? I know. Someone told me.
All right, Brit Shalom with Lee.
Okay.
Okay. I would have a question.
Yes, Michaela, yes.
Okay, you mentioned the importance of the relationship between man and his fellow man. Okay, what about the relationship between a parent and his son or daughter who is rebelling against his mother or
great question
or his father? Because
I can hear, behind this question that you are, teenagers in your family. So
we all have this problem.
So first of all, I will tell you a secret. I don't know how much you know that. For 30 years, I was teaching teenagers, and I was also high school principal for 15 years. So I know a lot about this subject.
Then I will
But
ask
what
questions
experience?
frequently.
I will say a very short note about this timing. And if you want, we can try to organize. If you all want, we will organize a different time and we'll speak about this, for as something that, to explain a few things. The main thing that we need to understand is that the teenager is a very, very important time where the youngest are getting some sort of independence. Now, they won't be able to be by themselves. We don't want them, I will say it like that. We don't want them to be just a hard copy of us. They're supposed to be themselves. And part of becoming themselves is with this rebellion against us. And I want to remind us all that we were like that, the same thing when we were teenagers. They're just giving us what we did to our parents. That's it. So we need to work wisely this time. From one side, not to demolish their rebellions, it's very important. On the other side, to give the boundaries. And again, if you want, we can organize a different session, and we'll speak about this, and we'll give a lot of advices, what to do and how to do. And it's always like everything else, a very big subject that we need to learn and we need to know how to do, to behave correctly, because at the end, when they're finishing these rebellions, they are coming back. I will say in one, the most important point that we need to remember, we need always to have a very, very good relationship with them, okay, with everything that they're doing to us, because the relationship is the thing that will bring them to finish the rebellions in the right way. But again, you can speak about this for a very long time, and I can give you, sessions.
That would be very, very helpful, really.
I did it for a lot of years, so it's not a problem also to speak about this issue. Organize it, Let's start to organize something with Dan, with others, when it's a good time, and we'll do something. We'll give few sessions about how to deal with the rebellions of the teenagers. Yes, good timing, the teenagers. Okay.
All right, are we transitioning to Lee and Brit Shalom?
Yeah, continue. Let's go on with Lee.
All right. Hello, everybody, and a good week to everybody. Shavua Tov. I hope you're all feeling well. And I'm not sure if we started and I was a couple minutes late, so we'll dedicate our learning to the healthy, full, and speedy recovery of Rabbi Chaim's parents, and you all and your loved ones. Everybody should feel well. I'll share my screen before we jump into the text and we finish up chapter 4. We had a couple of questions over the past few weeks, and I wanted to address them. So one question is in a previous chapter, chapter 3, laws of idolatry. One of the questions was Rabbi Shirky there talks about it being permitted for Noahides to be present at and even to passively participate in idolatrous rituals. And the question was, what does it mean? So to be present is one thing. If you're not really participating in any fashion. The question was, what did he mean by passively participating? So I think we touched on a couple of examples already, but I'll just clarify what the rabbi said. I spoke to him yesterday to clarify some of these questions. So the examples that he gave, I think we already spoke about them: attending a wedding, attending a funeral. These are things where you're not actively participating in any sort of prayer necessarily. You're in attendance. So this is kind of what he was referring to. I also I brought to him the point that was raised in the past about say a circle of friends or also family. If let's say one member of the family has connected to the Torah through Noahide law, but the rest of the family hasn't yet, and the rest of the family wants to go to church, let's say, or elsewhere to pray in a way that would be forbidden for a Noahide to pray. So what should that person do? Basically, he said, if possible, it would be preferable not to attend, because even if you're, let's say, sitting there, let's say, let's take the example of church. Even if you're sitting there, let's say, looking at Brit Olam, and you're kind of praying in let's say a kosher way, in a way that the Torah subscribes. Nevertheless, like somebody looking on the side could still, imagine that you're participating in the ritual. So if there's any way, then it would be preferable not to attend. Nevertheless, he had the caveat, and we spoke about this. I think it was last week. We spoke about. I encouraged you all to jump onto the website, where there's tons of Q&A, and also to send in more questions to get that section of the website more active. To challenge Rabbi Chaim and Rabbi Cherki and the rest of the staff with your awesome questions. So Rabbi Cherki did mention the caveat there that if not attending such services will bring pain, will necessarily bring pain and suffering to somebody, then there would still be a dispensation. It would be permissible for somebody to do so. Again, this is kind of like the ideal fashion and the realistic fashion, let's say, we'll call it that. There was a great practical question. I think it came from Netzach a couple of weeks ago about touring in, let's say, a church or a temple, any sort of other place of idol worship. So one part of the question was, would it be permissible to be on a tour like that? The second part of the question was a little nuance, is would there be a problem in paying an entrance fee? Because you could say, all right, so we said in the previous question, in our past learning, that being present in such a place is permissible for a Noahide, but what about the entrance fee? Nevertheless, Rabbi Cherki said that there's no problem with this. So there you go, Netzach. Great question. So let's say there's an entrance fee to tour one of the famous churches, even if it's an active church around the world, and like I said, other places, other temples of such sorts. So that would be permissible for a Noahide. There was a third question, more complicated, but nevertheless, as you might see in Rabbi Cherki's writings, his answers are very terse. They're very short and very, very straight to the point. So the question was about marrying through the Catholic Church. And what should somebody do if previously married through the Catholic Church and then divorced only through civil law? The problem there being that, generally speaking, I think it's more or less virtually all cases, with very few exceptions, the Catholic Church doesn't recognize divorce. So what should a person do in such a case if they were divorced through civil law, but then yet still in the eyes of the Catholic Church they're still married? Now this person is a Noahide, so what should they do? Rabbi Cherki said very clearly that for Noahides, so long as both sides agreed to separate, this is enough. And then this Noahide man or this Noahide woman, they're basically free of this previous covenant, of this previous marriage, and they can remarry. Another nuance, I think it might be mentioned in chapter 6, the family. But another nuance is that for Noahide law, both men and women can initiate this separation process. So I hope those answers are sufficient, and keep up the questions. Keep up the great questions.
May I ask a question or interject a little bit? Just a second on this,
please,
Travis. We're learning why or what not to do. The whys. The why about this, in my opinion, is the same about me as a Shabbos goy going into the shul on Shabbos. If I'm looking to Orthodox, I was requested to do certain things so as not to blur the line, because when we go into these places and we're not following the faith, and people know that we have a different faith in the one God, we're showing a blurred line, saying to other people, oh, well, it's okay to do this. We're giving their soul, their own subconscious, the ability to say, oh, well, we can cross the lines back and forth and there's no problem with it. And I think that's about the not blurring of lines. I agree with everything you said. It's exact. It's just the whys, not just the hows or what we're supposed to do.
Okay, I guess I agree with the general message that you're trying to send, Travis. I'll make two clarifications. Number one, I disagree that you're subscribing to a different faith. You're subscribing to the Torah. The Torah speaks to all of mankind. It speaks to Jews in a certain fashion, and it speaks to non-Jews in a different fashion. But we're all worshiping the same God, and each one in his own way. So. I hear what you're saying about not blurring the lines. This is actually a point also that Rabbi Sherky raised in one of the Q&As that we presented last week, that in times of old, there were sections in the synagogue for Noahides. There were sections for Jews, sections for Noahides, and this was commonplace. And he praised that, please God, this should be the practice very soon, with the help of people like you. Nevertheless, in the meantime, as you know, until this gains more ground, if attending a synagogue, just letting the people know, hey, I've come to, I want to participate in the prayer. This is the place I feel home. Nevertheless, you should know I'm a Noahide. I'm not a Jew. I want to come. I want to pray to the God of Israel together with you all, and just letting people know. If people have questions, okay, this is why we have rabbis. Why is this person doing like that? Even within the Orthodox Jewish realm, people have different laws. Okay, there's the Yemenite tradition. For example, let's say in the Yemenite tradition, it's permissible to heat up soup on Shabbat. Okay, but in the Ashkenazi tradition and largely in the Sephardic tradition, it's forbidden. Okay, but if a Yemenite Jew, he's going according to the tradition that he received. So I'm going to call him as if he's transgressing Shabbat. Heaven forbid. So this requires wisdom. It requires learning. Oh, this person is different. I need to understand why they're behaving in such a fashion. I should go to the rabbi before I jump to conclusions.
Oh yes, that wasn't truly my point. I was using that as an example of not blurring lines, because when we go into the Christian churches and we go through all of the rituals, and people know that we are Noahide, and we're walking this way, but we're sitting in their church and going through their or watching their rituals, it kind of gives them the impression that we're not as righteous as we should be. And that's what I meant by blurring the line. Anyway, let's move on, because you've got a lot to get.
Fair enough. I appreciate your comments and your questions, Travis. You've been challenging me to learn as well. I was telling my wife that I'm meriting to learn a lot through our sessions together. So thanks to you and to all to everybody's great questions. Fine. We are holding in chapter 4. We spoke in previous sessions on chapter 3, knowledge of God, speaking about idolatrous practices. Okay, we've gone through much of chapter 4 now, which is the laws of quote unquote blessing God, speaking in a euphemistic manner about blasphemy. We got through a good portion of the chapter, and we're continuing here in clause 11. Clause 11 reads as follows. Just a very quick recap. Okay, we spoke about the actual kind of hard and fast laws about not taking part in insolent language towards heaven, blaspheming, of course not. We spoke about Rabbi Sherky's rabbi introducing a very, very powerful insight that even a pessimistic worldview has within it some manner of blasphemy. It's saying that the world that you created, God, or that the world that you created for me, the life that you've given me, is not good. It doesn't have good in it, and there is some manner of blasphemy in that statement. So too, we spoke about atheism, and that we need to be careful about what kind of atheistic opinions a person is adhering to, if they're just rejecting some smaller idea of God, or otherwise. Okay, we spoke about if hearing blasphemy against God. Okay, so it says the letter of the law says that a person should tear his garments. But we spoke about, practically speaking, that today a person should nevertheless feel some heavy sense of distraught when hearing such statements. Okay, and synagogues and being clean when praying, etc. Spoke about just gave a practical example about dirty diapers, etc. last week. Okay, and then we spoke about honoring parents and how to do so. Okay. And on to clause 4. Oh, sorry, clause 11. the Torah commanded that respect be given to elders, as well as to Jewish sages and Noahide sages. And it is fitting to respect every person, and all the more so not to curse anyone. Okay, there's a number of things going on in this clause, and I think they bear some some explanation. So there is a manner of kind of respect to authority being presented here, but this also needs to be taken carefully. There's a statement in the Ethics of the Fathers that that we need to consider ourselves as like dust to the feet of the sages. Now, you could take this in the kind of plain sense, which is that they're incredibly wise and they have dedicated their lives to clinging to the Creator and to His Torah and to learning His Torah practically and theoretically. Nevertheless, the Torah does not believe in blind faith. The Torah does not believe also in blind faith in authority. And what we mean here, and that this is unfortunately an idea that Jews err into. The explanation that Rabbi Sherka brings in the name of Rabbi Chaim of Volozhin is that a person should very carefully consider the words of his sage, of his rabbi, of his Noahide sage, and if he finds in them some objection, he needs to bring this objection to his teacher and to say, well, what about this and what about that? And if he has an objection that has what to stand upon. Nevertheless, if he doesn't have a very good objection, okay, so he needs to have some manner of submission, some manner of humility before his teacher. So this is a very fine line, right? It's not blind faith in authority. Whatever the rabbi says goes, and if they do something questionable, then we absolutely shouldn't question it. So that's not it. At the same time, we need to have humility before our sages. We need to know that the wise ones are wise, as Rabbi Sheki says. So that's one point I wanted to bring up. Generally speaking, there's a verse in the Torah. I think it's brought down here in the footnotes in Leviticus that talks about respect being given to elders and to sages. And there's a classic work. I think it was put together sometime around the 1300s. It's called Sefer HaChinuch. It's a wonderful book, and it follows all of the positive and negative commandments in the Torah, and it gives an explanation of what they are, kind of like a couple of sentences. It tries to give some kind of explanation as to the meaning behind the law, why it was given, what it's coming to teach.
Can I say something? I think it's a very important book. It's called the Sefer HaChinuch, and it was written by one of our sages to his son that was 13 years old, and he had the bar mitzvah, okay, where he's starting to be responsible for his actions. By the way, there's a very big difference between, I will say, the Hebrew way of life and the Christian way of life. I will say it in general. In the Christian way of life, you're getting responsibility only at the age that you're starting to realize that you might kill someone. When are we giving driving license? Only at the age of 18, 17, 18, because this is when you're starting to realize that you might use it in the wrong way and you might kill someone. The same thing is to give license with the rifles, with the guns or something like that. In the Hebrew tradition, you're giving responsibility at the age of 12 and 13. Why is that? Because this is a time where biologically you have the possibility of giving life to others. And this is the main thing, that we got life, without any, without paying for the life that we got. And this is where we're starting to look at people like they're starting to become mature. So one of our sages, 800 years ago, wrote a book how to explain everything. In a moment, Lee will explain this amazing mitzvah of honoring our elders and our parents. what is he saying there, but he wrote the book to his son that was 13 years old and gave him as a present to his bar mitzvah time. Continue, Emily. Sorry.
Yeah, it's an amazing book, and I have it on my shelf. I recommend. I don't know if you probably find an edition of it online. So highly recommended. So what he says there, the author, about the commandment, the mitzvah of respecting elders and sages, is he also includes within that even people who are elderly, who might not necessarily be the most genius people, but why should nevertheless respect be given to them if it's very simple things, like if they walk into a room, some manner of like hello, or some manner of acknowledging they're coming into the room. In a respectful fashion. Why is that? He says because there is no man or woman, there's no human who goes through so much life experience who does not have what to teach you. And as King Solomon says, that it's also brought in the ethics of the fathers that we should be striving to learn from all those around us. So too, even if the person is not so much of a genius, and all the more so if he's a wise or learned person, they have decades of life experience from which to teach us. Okay, fine. And for the second portion of this, it's fitting to respect every person, and all the more so not to curse anyone. Okay, again, a statement. There's plenty of wonderful life lessons to be drawn from this section of the Mishnah, of the oral tradition called the Ethics of the Fathers, or in Hebrew Pirkei Avot. Again, it can be found online on Chabad's website or sefaria.org. About respecting every person. So it says there, Ezehu mechubad, who is deserving of honor and respect, hamechabed et haberiyot, one who respects those around him. And it's quite simple to understand. As somebody who is combative and who argues with everybody and is not amicable in any sense, it's not pleasant to be around them. We don't have to be doormats, but at the same time, you can see somebody who knows how to stand their ground, but is respectful of those around them. They're pleasant to be around. And regarding cursing, not to curse anyone. So too, I'm drawing here on the explanation, really sweet explanations in the Sefer HaChinuch, particularly for the section of mitzvot, which are called chukim. Right, we may have recalled this in the past, that the mitzvot, generally speaking, are split into like two sections, like the rational, those that we can very easily understand, or those that we might have come to on our own, and what are called the supra-rational, the above rational, things that we don't necessarily know the reasons for. Doesn't mean that there is no reason. They're not irrational. They're not against rationality, but the specific reasons either were not written in the Torah, and they were not given to us. They're like divine. So specifically in those mitzvot, this book is wonderful. This book is wonderful to kind of bring some of these ideas, which may appear kind of above our rationality, to bring them kind of closer down to earth. So in any event, regarding cursing, the Sefer HaChinuch says 3 major points. First of all, he underscores the power of speech. The power of speech. Okay, there's another statement in the Ethics of the Fathers that you could just also read the verses in the first chapters of Genesis, right? But that the world was created through speech. You can see that, there's the statement, at least in American culture, right, that talk is cheap. And unfortunately, it's quite obvious today. With social media, any idiot can get on his computer and type in whatever he wants, and it goes out to the entire internet. Talk is made very cheap, and the Torah is coming to disagree with this in full force. Your speech has influence. Your speech has influence on people's emotions, on people's ideas, and this is what I was referring to also with the first chapters of Genesis, that God created through speech. So too we can, God forbid, destroy through speech. Okay, so it's coming to underscore the power that we have in speech. Number 2, he says quite simply, not to grow accustomed to speak in such a fashion. We might be able to include also in this bad speech, a foul speech. Like I said, we don't need to pretty our words if we need to speak against somebody's actions. but we should be doing so in a respectful fashion, also to respect that other person, and also because it's not so respectful for us to speak in in foul ways, or in such vengeful or angry ways. And finally, he includes, this is a very interesting chidush, a very interesting insight for me. I wasn't aware of this, including in the prohibition against cursing anybody. The Sefer HaChinuch includes in this not cursing ourselves. So as we spoke about previously, in a pessimistic worldview, you could also include in this kind of a depressive worldview, a negative self-image. I'm good for nothing. I certainly won't succeed in this. I have nothing to contribute. So again, very deep messages in these in 2 sentences that I thought warranted some clarification. Okay, I think 12 kind of dovetails to 11, which is extreme caution should be taken not to curse authority figures or prominent people, and all the more so not to curse the nation of Israel. Again, we spoke about the Torah not subscribing to blind faith and authority, and at the same time, even though we can bring objections to our teachers, having the humility to understand that they're very wise, much wiser than we are. The sages of Israel praised the other nations of the world for their respect for the Torah. I was looking actually for the source for this and for some commentaries. It comes out of the Talmud, and I was trying to figure out what this is referring to. Rabbi Chaim, maybe you have some sort of commentary that you can elucidate what the sages were referring to in this fashion. I went to the source. It's in Tractate Chulin. I tried to go through some commentaries, through some explanations of contemporary rabbis. I wasn't sure exactly what the sages were referring to. Okay, we can maybe do some homework. Point 14. There is a moral obligation to thank the Creator for every goodness He bestows upon us. Based upon this principle, the sages of Israel composed blessings of praise and thanks that are recited at times of enjoyment, such as eating and drinking, and on happy occasions. These blessings are found in detail in prayer books. Okay, Rabbi Shirki obviously points you here to Brit Shalom, where things are detailed for different occasions and made appropriate for languages changed, made appropriate for Noahites. Okay, so you may all be familiar. I'll bore you with some examples. Okay, so as we said here, eating and drinking, certain commandments that we take part in. He'll mention this later, but there's blessings before food, kind of asking Hashem for permission to take part in the food that He's given us, and afterwards thanking Him for all the sustenance He's given us. Somebody's trying to say something? Okay. I noticed the chat is pretty quiet tonight, so maybe hopefully at the end we'll have some chatter. Actually, we're getting up to 9:15, so maybe we'll do a bit more, and we'll see how far we get, and leave time for questions. Yes.
I'd sent you a message on number 13. In reading of this week's Parsha, I believe that this is showing, basically 13 is alluding to the meeting of Moshe and Yisro right now, where the high priests of Israel and the high priests of the Goyim come together and they praise each other. And I think this is a good picture or a good example. And that's just something that I wanted to throw in there that I did notice. And as soon as you brought up 13, that's the first thing that popped into my head was their meeting and the respect between the two.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Travis. Okay, point 15, we'll maybe dwell upon a bit as well. Okay, thanks should be expressed even over difficult circumstances or occurrences, since even these are ultimately meant for good. Okay, there's examples.
Just a moment, I will explain what is being said in the Gemara, okay? The Gemara, it says that there are few things that you see that also the nations that are not the Hebrew nations respecting. that is related also to the Bible. Okay, and one of them is, for example, that we are not. You won't find that people are selling and eating flesh of human. Okay, usually human people are burying, one each other. They're not eating the meat, okay, the flesh of the human. So this is an example. So, and it says there in the Gemara, in the source, what you said before, that our sages are prizing all the world for keeping few things like that. We have few things that you see that they have some sort of respect to I will say common sense. I will say it like that. One of the things that the sages are saying that it broke down in the last 10 years. That I have no problem to say this here in this room. That they're not doing agreements as a couple for the same, men with men and women with women. Okay, they're not holding this as a couple. This is one an example that the Gemara is giving. Okay, that our sages are giving. Unfortunately, in the last 10 years, we see differently that it's working a bit differently in the modern world. But hopefully we will manage to bring this down back again. Okay, but basically what it says that there are things that we see that also the non-Hebrew people are holding or behaving in the right way, and this is something that is very important to say this. The respect that they have.
Thank you, Rabbi. Yeah, there. Finally, for some reason my chat window was not opening, and now I see, Travis, what you wrote. Thank you very much. I'll review it at the end here. We'll do a couple more. I think maybe we'll stop on 15 or so. Let's see. Okay, so again, just reading again here, clause 15. Thanks should be expressed even over difficult circumstances or occurrences, since even these are ultimately meant for good. There's a famous statement made by Rabbi Akiva in Tractate Brachot, the Tractate of Blessings in the Talmud. He says, "Kal de'avid rachamana letav avid." All that the merciful one does is for the good. Now, I think a very slight clarification, a nuance in translating it, and Rabbi Shirky is alluding to this here, would be all that the merciful one does is for the ultimate good. And what that one word, ultimate good, what that comes to clarify is what Rabbi Shirky says in different places. He has a couple of classes where he teaches the book of Job, the book of Iyov, very difficult book to understand and difficult in its content and its teachings. He says that people go through suffering, and it's cruel. It's a misunderstanding to try to say that suffering is good. The Torah does not idolize suffering. Nevertheless, we need to be steadfast in never giving up hope, and that hope that we're clinging to is this future good. We know that everything eventually will converge to an ultimate good, to an ultimate redemption for humanity. And my small part, and if unfortunately, God forbid, one has to suffer as in his role in this ultimate redemption, then we pray that suffering should be minimized. But we take solace in that suffering playing a very small role in this ultimate redemption. Obviously, this is incredibly difficult to internalize. And this is why it's so important to talk about God's goodness. If we're talking about phrase 14 here, law 14, thanking God for all his abundant, goodness and kindness to us in every day, and taking part in classes like this and cherishing everything that we have. We'll speak about another beautiful prayer that's customary to say in the morning. Lechazek, to strengthen as much as we can our our understanding and our firm belief that God is good. And because, as it says in Tehillim, להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות. It's I think chapter 92, the chapter Mizmor Shir L'Yom HaShabbat, the chapter on Shabbat. It says that we should להגיד בבוקר חסדך, we should say in the morning your kindnesses, ואמונתך בלילות, and your faithfulness at nighttime. And the deeper explanation is when it's bright outside, when the birds are chirping, and when things are going very well, we should be very, we should say our kindnesses abundantly for ourselves and those around us, because because when it's nighttime, when things are challenging, we need that strength. We need to draw from that strength to get us through the night, to get us through the difficult times. So this is a challenge for anyone, and there are certain blessings also brought, God forbid, in certain unfortunate circumstances. Okay, I think maybe one, maybe two more. I think they're pretty short. Okay, clause 16. Anyone who hears another person say a blessing should answer Amen, in order to identify and show solidarity with what has been said. This also applies to a Jew who hears a blessing recited by a Noahide, if it is clear that the Noahide was blessing the Creator alone and was not directing his blessing at another entity. We spoke about in the past worshiping only one God, the God of Israel, and not shituf, right? The idea of worshiping God and also having kind of another God on the side that we include in that relationship. So long as it's clear that there's only worship of the one God of Israel, answering Amen. And Amen comes from the same root in Hebrew as emunah, faithfulness. We're basically saying, I agree. This is a good statement. This is what the word Amen means etymologically. And so it's a mitzvah. It's a wonderful thing to say. We say Baruch atah Hashem Eloheinu melech haolam borei pnei ha'etz. Blessed are you, God, Master of the universe, that you have created the tree. So you answer Amen. I say, of course, I want to identify with the statement that God is blessed and He's the Master of the universe and the Creator of the trees. So a wonderful thing to do. Okay, and 17. I alluded to this previously, and we'll end with this. It's a wonderful custom to thank God for the very gift of life upon awakening from nighttime sleep. And the prayer reads, I hope it appears in Brit Olam. Let's see, 24 and 25 here. It's different. I'm not sure if it appears. I hope it appears in Brit Olam, but it reads as follows. I offer thanks to you, living and everlasting King, for you have compassionately returned my soul to me. Your faithfulness is abundant. Customarily in Jewish law, it's brought that as soon as a person opens his eyes, should recite the statement, or kind of sitting at the bedside, recite the statement. One explanation that I saw brought for your faithfulness is abundant is, first of all, thank you for giving me another day of the gift of life, and kind of starting off on a positive note. But your faithfulness is your faith in me. You have given me another day of this gift of life because you believe in me that I will do good things with this gift you've given me. So you have abundant faith in me. I took this message very much to heart. Going through a difficult time about 10 years ago or so, coming out of university, this message spoke very very deeply to me, that God has faith in me. God has faith in each one of us, and that's why He's brought us into the world in this time in history. And we need to look around us to strengthen, as we said, our firm understanding and belief that God is good, and He's showering kindness upon us, and do good things with God's help.
For every day that God is giving us life, He believes in us that we will do with this day something good for the world.
Amen. Modeh Ani, thank you. Daniel wrote here in the chat that the title of this blessing that we say, of this prayer that we say upon awakening, in Hebrew is called Modeh Ani. I acknowledge, or I thank you. Modeh is from this shared root. Suffering in view of ultimate good. In other words, we are putting mission before man.
And we need, you're not sharing your screen.
Oh, I'm just reading from the chat, Rabbi Chaim.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm reading from the chat here. Looking at Michaela is saying, suffering in view of ultimate good. In other words, we are putting mission before man. Is this correct? I think it's correct. I'll add on to something that Travis was talking about previously about kind of the collective good. I think we spoke about this maybe in past sessions. Rabbi Sachs, peace be upon him, said a wonderful thing in an interview he had with Tim Ferriss. He has this guy Tim Ferriss. He's quite a genius. He has a podcast with wise people around the world, and he had Rabbi Sachs on just a couple of months before he passed away. And in there, he spoke about the very fine line between the Far East and the West. The West is idolizing the I, and the Far East idolizing the we in communism. Okay, and there's this very, very fine line between the holiness of the collective and the holiness of the individual. If you will, Travis, like the holiness of the relationship between man and man between God. And I think to a degree, your question here is falls into that message, Michaela. It's putting a mission before man, but it's also saying that I am choosing individually. I want my holiness to be expressed through this little brick in the collective good. I hope that is sufficient. Tony says,
Lee, can I ask a question from someone on YouTube?
Yeah, sure.
James B says, you were talking earlier about not cursing yourself, and he says, how is Job cursing the day of his birth similar to cursing yourself?
Again, sorry, I didn't hear.
How is Job cursing the day he was born similar to cursing yourself?
Right, so Rabbi Chaim, I was saying,
yes.
The question is clear. Yeah, it's a very good question. I'm only now learning the book of Job for the first time with the commentaries. I can tell you that the friends are it's one hell of a project. It's taking me some time, but the friends are not so amicable of Job's messages. They come at him with a number of different criticisms.
I will say like that. The main point here with Job is that he is as someone who is suffering. Okay, Job is suffering. Now we can't judge someone who is suffering. We also say this in Avot. Also, you're not allowed to convert someone who is dead is in front of him. There are times where you can speak or can judge someone. So it's very hard to judge Job while he was suffering very much. And we are trying to judge Job now when we're sitting comfortable on our chair, and everything is very comfortable. So we need to be aware, okay, on the point. Basically what he is cursing there, that he is very upset that he was born. And he says that it was better that he was going out from the womb of his mother and not alive. He wasn't born at all. But now that he was born, why is he supposed to suffer like that? Now, the issue of suffering in our world is a very big issue. And again, for that, we need also to give 2-3 lessons to explain this a bit more in a depth, in a profound way, to understand that, because we are all passing all sorts of suffering around the world. And we need to understand from where it's coming and what exactly is the mission of the suffering and what we're gaining from that, and how come God that is only good and kindness, something like suffering is going out from him. No, it's a very big question. A lot of books was written down to this specific issue.
Yep, speaking to my wife about learning Job on Shabbat, and I was speaking to my wife about this exact statement of our sages. Rabbi Chaim said, "En meratzin et adam b'shat ka'aso." Don't try to come to a person with intellectual, rational explanations when he's in the middle of distraught, when he's in the middle of strife.
Suffering.
When he's in the middle of suffering, he's going through an emotional period of time. You cannot come at him with, "Oh, it's happening because of this." He's not there. He's not acting upon his intellect. Yeah.
Thank you.
I don't know, Dan. You do usually wind things down here. I know we're over time. There's more questions.
Well, that's okay. Yeah, I do have to take off myself shortly. So if you want me to wind it down online, is probably perfect time. So Rabbi Goldberg, Hashem willing, are we okay for next Sunday, same time?
Yes. Bezrat Hashem, yes. Hope to see you.
All right, folks, there you have it. Live from Jerusalem with Rabbi Chaim Goldberg, our Genesis class, and also with Lee Fogel sharing with us the Brit Shalom book. It's always a joy to be with him. So till same time next week, have a great and wonderful week, folks.
Thank you.
Michaela, it's a very good question. You must